my name is Cameron and I'm the HR guy. And the purpose of these videos is to provide you with proven strategies for employment success. Today's video, we're going to talk about virtual interviews. It could be through Zoom, Google Hangouts, Google Meets, even FaceTime or some other kind of application like that. Oftentimes, these interviews can make people very nervous because they're not used to this format. Maybe they're not even really that good with technology and they're afraid they won't even be able to log in for the interview. So today, I'm going to share with you 7 tips on how to ace any virtual interview. Okay, tip number 1, test your technology. It's important that you make sure your technology works, that you have a good internet connection, that your video and your microphone work, and that you practice and you make sure that on the day of the interview that you double check to make sure it's working correctly. It's also a good idea to have a plan B. So maybe you were planning on using your laptop for the interview and for whatever reason it's not working right, it's not connecting. You can also use a tablet or a phone, but make sure you've tried with both of those previously to make sure they're set up correctly so that you don't have any issues when it comes time for the interview. All right, tip number 2 is set the scene. A couple of things you want to do to prepare the area you're going to be in for the interview. One is you want it to be an area that's not cluttered or that has anything in the background on the walls or anything else that's going to be distracting to the interviewer. You want them to be focused on you and your answers and not something that's going on behind you or something on the wall behind you. You want to make sure it's a quiet place so that the interviewer can clearly hear your answers and understand what you're saying. You also want to make sure it's going to be an area that's free from interruptions. You don't want somebody walking in on the middle of your interview and interrupting that or creating a distraction for you or the people interviewing you. And the last thing is you want to make sure your lighting is good. You want to make sure there's enough light on you and your face so that the interviewer can clearly see you. One of the mistakes I see often that people make is they'll have a window behind them that has a lot of natural light coming through, and it might brighten up the room. It might look initially like it's a good idea, but if you don't have enough light shining on your face, it's going to make your face look dark, and it's going to be hard for the interviewer to see your facial expressions. It's also going to be harder for them to connect with you if they can't really see your face clearly when you're answering questions. Tip number 3 is prepare. You're going to want to spend some time researching the company and the position. You're also going to want to take some time to review the job description and identify how your skills and experience relate to that specific position. You're also going to want to spend some time preparing for some commonly asked questions like, tell us about yourself, your biggest strengths and weaknesses, or tell us about a difficult time you had at work and how you handled that. You don't want to memorize these answers, but you do want to prepare your thoughts on how you would answer these questions when they come up in the interview. You'll also want to prepare some questions to ask at the end of the interview. What do you see as the ideal candidate for this position? Or what are the next steps in this interview process? Tip number 4 is practice, and you can do this by yourself or with a friend. Practice, but don't memorize your answers. You don't want to come off sounding robotic or somebody who's reading a script. You want to come across as being authentic. Next, you want to be clear and concise. Remember, you don't have a lot of time in these interviews, so you want to be able to get your point across quickly, but also make sure you're fully answering the question. Tip number 5 is body language. And you may be thinking, well, I'm on a video screen, does that really matter? And yeah, it still does. Again, you want this to be as natural as possible, as if you were in the room with the interviewer. So you want to think about, having good posture, looking at them in the eye. Now for you, it's going to be looking at the camera, not maybe at a screen, because then it will appear you're not looking at them in the eyes. You want to still maybe lean in when you're answering questions. Be yourself, be personable, and if you use your hands to talk, that's okay, as long as it's not like you're flailing around. So you still want to express yourself in a normal way that you would as if you were in person, so they can kind of get a read on you. Again, body language is going to be one of the things that people pay attention to the most, whether it's in a live interview or even in a virtual interview. Tip number 6 is dress professionally. Yeah, even though it's a virtual interview, you still want to dress as if you were in person. A good rule of thumb is it's always better to be overdressed than underdressed. And you might be sitting in your bedroom doing this interview, but you don't want it to look like you just rolled out of bed. It shows that you are taking this opportunity seriously. And lastly, when you dress professionally, you feel more confident, and oftentimes you'll do better in the interview. Tip number 7 is make a connection. And I know this will be a little more difficult in a virtual format than it would if you were in person, where you could shake hands and they could see your body language and maybe get a different impression of you by seeing you in person. But you're still going to want to do your best to make that connection. And that's, again, looking at the camera so that it appears you're just in the room with them, looking them in the eyes. You're going to want to be personable, be genuine and authentic when you're answering questions, and be yourself. If you're able to throw some humor in there or some other way to make a connection while you're answering questions, you're going to want to do that as well. So any way you can to show them who you are, and that not only do you have skills and abilities for this position, but that you have the personality to be the right fit for that organization as well. Okay, and I'm going to give you a bonus tip. One of the things you can do as well, since again you didn't get to meet these folks really in person, is to follow up with an email within 24 hours. Just again, reiterating that you're excited for this opportunity, how you would be, again, a great fit for this organization, and maybe reiterate or even share, again, some of your special skills and unique talents that you have that make you a really great candidate for this position. And as always, if you like this video and it was helpful, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and share with someone else who may find this information useful. And we'll see you in the next video.